Welcome to Men Pursuing More. I'm your host, Roger Maupin. I believe every man has the potential to push past his limits and strive for something greater. Whether you're a former athlete who is looking for what's next, a professional pushing through the daily grind, or someone simply ready to break through life's toughest challenges, if you're ready to step into the pursuit of something more, your pursuit begins now. Hey, welcome back to Men Pursuing More. I'm your host, Roger Maupin, and today we have Bennett Davison joining us. So Bennett, before we dive into your story, a few quick questions. First one, favorite memory of the NCAA tournament? We're right in the March Madness now.
I actually just got on the NCAA and they said I was about a half a day too late to start my bracket. I'm not much of a gambler. I only do two things, brackets and Super Bowl squares. So for me, it's always the best time of the year. Spring is coming in. It's the end of your freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year, and everybody's just so excited because it is madness. We got very lucky at Arizona. We put 6 lucky games together. But my favorite time, not so much on the court. Everybody talks about the celebration, hugging the ball, and us having it go into overtime. And quick little plug, we're the only school in NCAA history to beat 3 number 1 seeds and win the championship. So just want to put that out there. But one of the best moments is everyone's always talking about the biggest celebrations. And one of the funniest things is the night before the game, we're in the hotel lacrosse and we're playing in Indianapolis and we're having a food fight. And Coach Olson and Coach Rosborough, Jesse Evans, and everybody's over there, Phil Jackson, they're all having this, what do? They're having a food fight. We got to let them know how serious this is. And Coach Olson, in his wisdom, says, no, let them just be kids. Let us take the pressure. And little things like that are stick out to me more because you think about the training and you spent the last 10 years. I've been in the best shape of my life since I was 5 years old, playing Olympic soccer tryouts and now basketball. And it's those little moments outside of it of how do you get these kids prepared for something that is something they don't really recognize how big it is. That makes sense?
I love that. How about your winner for the March Madness? Who are you going to take?
For this, I always got to go with Arizona. You're probably asking the wrong person to talk about sports, but I'm actually not much of a sports watcher. If there's a football game or Arizona, and we have a Metro Cats. I'm in Dallas, Texas right now. And there's a Metro Cats Saturday ritual where we go out and we go to the local bar and we get all the Wildcats in the air. And every time we see a Wildcat, we tell them about it, come check out the game. But for me, I've always got to go with Arizona as a bracket. But then you can always go with the traditionals, the Dukes, the Gonzagas, Kansas. Those are always the top ranked teams. But then you always have the Cinderella teams. You never know who's going to be who's winning, who's on a roll, because it really comes down to who can put the 6 luckiest games back to back.
Yeah, my prediction is Florida Gators. So we'll see. We're having a good year.
Oh, no, nice.
All right. How about your favorite all-time player?
Actually, my cousin Jeremy is the first person that got me into sports. He was a goalie down in Santa Barbara. And as my mother, a single mother raising a hyperactive young boy, all the therapists and all the uncles and all the males in her life were saying, don't try to contain his energy, just try to redirect it. There's a soccer ball. Go get it. Let's go watch Uncle Jeremy. Let's go watch cousin Jeremy go play some soccer games. And he was a goalie. And so I was out there, and that was what I did for the first 12 years of my life, maybe even 15 years of my life. I tried basketball one time, didn't like it. For myself, I actually only do sand volleyball, play soccer, indoor soccer as a goalie. I do after-school basketball, so I'm still physically active, staying slim as possibly can be, but I don't watch sports. But if I was to sit there and watch somebody growing up, somebody that idolized about showing up early, being the last to leave, helping his father, Jerry Rice was the guy. He was out there. He was throwing bricks. His dad was a bricklayer. He was throwing bricks all the time. And just those little things get you going. The things that helped me play soccer was we would go to these nature hikes in Santa Barbara, and I would skip on tops of rocks and do basically agility drills, skipping on tops of rocks across the stream. We would go on long distance runs around the beaches in Santa Barbara. Dad's like, hey, here's a straight line. I need those 8 holes dug before we eat dinner. And I was just sitting there grabbing poles and getting thick blisters on my hands and doing hard work and splitting. He's like, hey, we need some logs, go split the logs. So physical labor is something that always been in my realm. But Jerry Rice is that same thing where I was growing up on a farm and he was growing up in the South, and just hard work, and their parents instilled that, and my parents instilled that in myself also.
2 shout outs to Jeremy, right? Your cousin.
Jeremy Cousin, yep.
Yeah, and then Jerry Rice. I love it. All right, now tell the listeners about, you shared a little bit about growing up in kind of California and some of the highlights and challenges for you along the way. I know you played soccer for a while, just playing other sports. I know we talked a few weeks ago about kind of GPA as a freshman year, just how that impacted you, and just kind of share with the listeners about some of the highlights and challenges growing up.
I think we all have a point in our life where we're just like, all right, what do we want to do with our lives? Or are we going to be able to achieve that goal that we set? And I've told this on a couple of the podcasts, is my mom is very much into putting things out into the ether, putting them out into the butterfly effect. And we got some candles, some very fancy jawbreaker, rainbow colored kind of candles. And me and my sister, we sat there and we lit the candle, and Mom said, take 2 minutes. What do you want to be? I already knew right away what I wanted to be. I want to be a professional soccer player. My sister said, I want to be a princess or a ballerina. I was like, that's a younger sister, your older brother. That's a stupid dream. Think of something better, because I thought mine was so cool. And so soccer was the thing. And so Mom was saying, that goes, you need to show up to class. It means you got to do your homework. It means you got to turn it in on time. It means you can't shoplift the box of 10 cents candy right there at the grocery store and get caught later. Little things like that. You got to show up to practice on time. And so the freshman year, I'm from a small town in Sebastopol. Hello, Sebastopol, Sebtown, Sebastopol, California. I'm an hour north of San Francisco. And I had a 1.8 grade point average. And it was just like, sorry, you can't play. And at the beginning of that year, basketball usually starts around October, November, December, January, February, maybe finishes. And Mom and Dad made the decision, like, you have a 1.8, you're going to focus. We're going to get you a tutor, but you're showing up to every practice. You're showing up to every game, and you're sitting behind the bench. And that it was a life-altering thing of saying, hey, you've got to show up to work. If you're sick and they see you're sick, you can go back home. Don't call in unless you're basically got a flat tire and your whole front end. Show up to the things that you committed to. And I sat there, and the embarrassment of my teammates, dude, we need you. Why aren't you playing? He's like, because I'm stupid. And that's I says, go tell your teammates how stupid you are, that you can't even turn in a simple assignment. At least cheat off of somebody and turn the thing in, just so you can go. You've got to figure out how to do school, because you can't do basketball, something you love, if you can't do school. And they go together. And that's really one of the lessons that I try to teach my kids as a high school teacher, a youth basketball coach. I have 3 daughters that are in high school doing great and off in college and playing sports, is you've got to be able to commit to the things that you've committed to and finish off the day strong. Wake up early and show up late.
Share with the listeners about knocking on doors for scholarships at colleges in the area, and then why West Valley Junior College after graduating, some of the highlights and challenges maybe at the JUCO level.
There's kind of like 2-3 stories to getting to actually getting there. And being from a small town of Sebastopol, we had a bunch of talent in the area, but we had no idea of how to get out of there. So think of the Redwood Forest, and you're in a small town of 6,000 hippies. All the cars are Priuses and Volkswagens, and all the fog rolls in, and you actually have redwood trees in your forest, in your yard. And my dad worked in the San Francisco, Mom's from Cleveland, Ohio. So they always knew that there's something else out there. In doing so, on my junior year and my senior year, Mom and Dad, we would go and spend probably every second weekend driving down to Marin College, going to Santa Rosa Junior College, talking to their Tommy Mitchell at the junior college. What is the best process for us? Because I know my son has some talent, and we don't want to pay for college. And in doing so, then we went to St. Mary's, Cal, Stanford, University of San Francisco State, and San Jose State. And we just give us some insight. Pacifica in Stockton. We went to Sacramento State. We don't know what to do. And so we knock on the doors, and these coaches at Cal and Berkeley, Stanford, who are you and what do you want? He's like, my son's an athlete. Do you guys have a scholarship? He's like, we don't really have any scholarships, but that's not how this whole process works. Why don't you just go to a junior college and we'll keep an eye on you? Okay, what does a junior college do? So we already knew that the Division I wasn't that option. So I went to a junior college, and it was, okay, where are the junior colleges? In California, there's a very big, well put together junior college JUCO system. And one thing we did know was we were not going to stay in the Santa Rosa area. All the guys that were the all-star teams, Bobby Alexander, John, Florence, everybody was basically went over to Santa Rosa Junior College. And I was like, I got to get out of here. And so we just basically drove around to Ohlone and De Anza and Skyline, the University of San Francisco. So we just basically did the same thing with junior college. And we came across this one, Coach Burton. He was highly recommended. And he just had a court naming ceremony probably about 2 or 3 months ago. And I did a little video for that. And put it this way, he'll describe it the same way. Bald, buck tooth with glasses, but you'll never fear me more than any other coach you've ever had. And that 100%. He made basketball practices miserable. But what happened was the games would come around, and if we won by 15 points, it was a close game. I think we went 66 wins and 2 losses. We would he set us up for success, and it was pretty much a recruiting visit where mom and dad and me, and we're walking around to the student center and then the rec area. Then we're meeting the guidance counselors and stuff. And we did this whole hour-long thing. And Coach Burton's like, hey, Judy, already asked you 100 questions. Do you have any more? And my dad says, no, she doesn't have any more questions. Bennett, do you like Coach Burton? Yes, I like Coach Burton. This is the best junior college I've seen. He's like, Coach Burton, do you like Bennett? Yes, I think he can add to our team and become a very beneficial player. He's like, all right, we're coming here. It was as simple as that. It's just one of those things you just walk across, and it turned into be one of the best decisions for my basketball career because it was really a small town, pass, screen away, simple basketball. We were there at a Division I. Coach Burton, his basketball IQ was through the roof. It was exactly what I needed. Sit down, shut up, follow what I say, and you'll become successful. So just to wrap this up in like the next minute is, as I'm going around to Cal, Stanford, the University of San Francisco, Sac State, asking them for a scholarship, 5 months later, after being at West Valley, I look in the Street and Smith All-American magazine where you could find the rankings, and my name was first. Know it. So I became the number one player in the nation within about 5-6 months, because in junior college, you can start basically, I think we did Monday, Tuesday, Thursday practices, and then we had the weekends off for school. And then when the season starts, then we went 5 days a week and games 2 days a week, 2 games a week, stuff like that. So for me, the whole junior college thing was exactly what I needed. It's exactly what I needed. And then we did the summer league, the junior college summer league, and we were in a gym with Lute Olson and Bill Frater and John Thompson and Duke, North Carolina, Kansas. After that junior college camp, Coach Burton brought in a copier where they keep reams of paper in one of the boxes. He's like, all right, Andy, you have a couple letters here. Jacoby Thompson, you have a couple letters here. Boom. And then he puts a box on my desk. I was like, what's this? And it was like, these are the who's recruiting you. Duke, North Carolina, Georgetown, St. John's, Texas Tech, USC, UCLA, everybody in the country. I was like, they're asking for me? Where I was just 5 months ago, I was just asking for a scholarship, and now everybody's offering. I was like, you've earned it. And I was like, wow. It was that fast. It was about a year-long timeline.
So share with the listeners your journey to the University of Arizona to play for the legendary Lute Olson, and some of the highlights and challenges along the way playing at Arizona.
The skill level gets better and better. That's for sure. When you get there, you're jumping into a system. Every coach has a system and a style that they run, but those Division I's, those top 25 teams, they are just magnifique. It is a sweet wine. It is a fine wine. It has been aged. It has been processed. Like, you plug into that system, and it was an energy jump that I was ready for, because in the summer leagues, I was in junior college summer leagues, I'm playing against San Jose State, Santa Clara, Steve Nash, Sharif Abdul-Rahim, Jason Kidd in these summer leagues. So I'm being a role player against those guys, but playing on an actual team. Where do you actually plug in? I came from the number one JC player in the nation for those 2 years. And then it came to Arizona, where I was like, I was a really good role player. So for me, it was really a shock, because I felt like I was letting my team down. But when you're on the court with Kobe and Shaq, are you going to get a lot of shots? No, you're going to sit out to play the best defense. I need you to crash the boards. I need you to communicate. I need you to set Kobe on the pick and roll so he doesn't have to do all those things. That's the way I felt at Arizona. I felt like I was a really good role player. I felt like a Shane Battier or a Devin George, someone to go out there and support the team. The thing is, our team was one of the smallest guard-oriented teams in the nation. So we weren't all that big in our stuff, but we could run all day long. That was one thing that we could do. All these big guys, we play against Washington State that have 7'5", 7'2" guys. We would just meet them at half court and get them tired. We can run all day long. That was one thing that we had a bunch of good, amazing, good-hearted, raised, respectful, classy basketball team. We didn't have any problem makers. We didn't have any people that would stay out or show up drunk to practice or getting in fights. There was none of that at Arizona. It was as players, we ran that. We looked at it as a business for ourselves.
So all those schools that recruited you, why Arizona?
Because it was warm. No, because I was a junior. I was coming in as a junior. So those first 2 years as a freshman, sophomore, then junior, senior, I needed to go to a place where I could play and get on the roster. UCLA had 5 or 6 big guys. Washington State had a couple. Washington Huskies had a couple stuff. And then it really came down to with those schools. And it was as simple as this. Coach Burns, where geographically do you want to play? I said, he's think Central time, East Coast, West Coast. I was like, I'd like my parents to be able to see where I'm at, but I don't need to be at Stanford right around the corner. He's like, don't worry about Stanford. You don't have the grades. He's like, all right, Stanford's off the list. Cal, I went and saw their stuff, and I just didn't like I went to a bunch of their summer camps, and things just seemed like they were always in a different place. It wasn't just one home base. I went to Arizona, and that is the only show in town. You go to LA, you got and UCLA, and you got the Dodgers and the Rams and the Raiders and the Dodgers. You have all these, the Angels, you have all this stuff. Disneyland, Hollywood, San Francisco, trying to get out of that area. You go up to Oregon, you go to Washington, you got snow, and I was like, man, that sounds miserable. And so I came to Arizona, and I didn't do any other recruiting trips. It was great.
Sure, because listeners are going to want to know about this, about first playing for Lute Olson, what it was like playing for Lute Olson, because there's a lot of listeners out there that know of the name, know the legendary Lute Olson, and also winning a national championship. I believe it was your junior year, right? Your first year there at Arizona. What was that like? And then probably the listeners are wondering, who were some of your teammates?
Some of my teammates were Mike Bibby, who was a freshman, Jason Terry, played for the Mavericks. Everybody knows Bibby, played for the Kings and the Grizzlies and the Heat. My probably best communicative friend is AJ Bramlett. Then there was Michael Dickerson, Miles Simon, and it was only in Gene Ederson, Donnell Harris, Jason Lee, Quinn Tebbs, Jason Stewart, John Ash, Ortiz Jenkins. Who else? Josh Passner. If I forget your name, it's just rambling off the names. But we all got along. Like those were the players that were there, and we'd all just be big goofy. We're big goofy kids. We look back at ourselves like, this group of guys won a national championship. That's crazy. And there's no these guys won, but we did. One of the stories is we won the whole thing, and you have pretty much Kentucky, and then a little sliver of Arizona up in the stands. So it was 50,000. We might have had 8,000 people, and the rest of the fans were Kentucky, because everything's in Indianapolis. Kentucky's right there across the nation. You're in front of 48,000, 52,000 people, the national television. But one of the things that I remember the most was when we're cleaning up, getting out of the locker room, waiting on Lute Olson and Miles Simon to do their interviews. We're all sitting on the bus waiting for them to get there. And we're like, all right, who's next? Because after every game, you're like, okay, game's over. Who do we play next? You play Washington. You play Washington State the next day. Oregon State. All right, who do we got next? Bennett. We're the number one team in the nation. And we're just like, it was just a sound of that from Josh Passner. And then you go to the parents, and they're just grabbing your face, and they're like, you won. I was like, what did we win? It doesn't set in. And then you hang out all night. In Indianapolis sucks if you win a championship and you're not from the region, because everybody left town. We get back, flying on Champion Air. We get back onto the tarmac, and me and Michael Dickerson and everybody is sitting on the back of a convertible car. We're driving 1 mile an hour, 2 miles an hour, all the way back to Tucson. The town is shut down. The night before, they had flipped over cop cars. Girls were running down the street topless. People were jumping on wires. I still talk to people when I go back to Tucson, like, I was on 6th Avenue when you guys won the championship. We were at Johnny Rockets eating chili dogs. It was boring. And so the next day, it was just a week of just shutting the city down. Schools were out. Police were out there. And then we drive into the stadium, and we're just high-fiving. We high-five for probably the next hour because we're driving slowly. We go into the stadium, and then the whole student bodies in the football stadium, we got probably 12 to 15,000 people there. They have us up on the stage. We start walking through. People start choking us. I need to give me some hugs, and they're just choking the hell. They're trying to tear your shirts off, and it was actually an unhealthy situation. They should have planned it a little bit better, but it was chaos. It was fun. We got a lot of free pizza. Don't tell anything. You know what? These kids are making millions of dollars right now. Complaining about us eating a piece of pizza. F that. Retroactive NIL money. I think we can start hashtag retroactive payments for NCAA champions.
That's right, for the rest of your time and your family too.
Exactly. So it was just a small town. We're the only show in town, University of Arizona basketball. And we go back every year in August for a Lute Olson fantasy camp. So it's always a good time there.
And what was it like? I know listeners would like to know, and just maybe a few comments about Lute. Like, why is so many people consider him legendary? People know him, but you know him really well because you played for him.
Yeah, he's like a John Wooden. He's like a Wooden, John Wooden. One thing that Coach told me, Coach Lavin, he said, do you know how much money Coach Wooden made for all of his years? Do you know what his annual salary was? Guess.
I wouldn't. Annual salary, I would say maybe back then, $80,000.
$32,000 for every single year he was there. He never asked for a pay raise.
32,000.
But he would go off and do conferences. So Lute Olson, that was his business. For 20 years, he was the highest paid government employee in the state of Arizona. So he wasn't really in the Arizona realm. He's a legend. He's bigger than the mayor, that type of stuff. But for us, he was one of mom and dad are. Let me back up. He told us, I always want to recruit good kids. You can always recruit the best athletes, but you're dealing with a lot of outside baggage. One thing that he knew, that when he was recruiting us, he always wanted to meet the families first, because when a family is dropping their kid off a state away and a 18 to 24-hour drive away, those parents want to be able to say, hey, he's in good hands. And we were in good hands. They take care of your classes, make sure you got living situations, you got tutors, you got all the SALT programs or the educational stuff that you need. But I came from a junior college coach that was screaming and yelling, foaming at the mouth, amazing coach. But you have Lute Olson, who the way he talked, it sounded like he thought about every word that he ever said. I think that you should go down here and you need to set the angle this way and not this way. And he never said a foul word. He never said anything negative. There's times of frustration is like, you couldn't hit a boat of water if you fell out of a boat. You couldn't hit a shot on a month of Sundays, something like that. So it was all these old country Christian sayings, but he never made you feel like you were a piece of S. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. He's either you're going to do it where I've assigned you to do it as a junior, or we're going to have the freshman come in and do it. And if he doesn't, we have somebody else that's going to come in and do it. So it's a very professional and it's a challenging. We were pushed to the limits, and where our legs are burning and you can't breathe and you're coughing up that sticky spit in the bottom of your throat. But Lute Olson is a giver. He's a caretaker. He's a nurturer. He's truly a father figure for many, not just me, Sean Elliott, Sean Rooks, to Miles Simon, to Joseph Blair, Ben Davis, Corey Williams, Reggie Gary, Damon Stoudemire, all these guys, Steve Kerr, Judd Bushler. The thing is, all these guys, they played in 88 and from Pete Williams. And then you have 90, then 92, 94, 96. And then the thing is, a majority of us never played together, but when we all get together, it's like we did. Truthfully, it's one of those things where a lot of people just go their own separate ways, but a lot of them come back and we're all still very connected.
I appreciate you sharing that about just your experience here at Arizona and Lute Olson. So let's move on to, after playing ball at Arizona, why playing overseas? You would play, I think, for the next 13 years. And just some highlights and challenges. I know, why not the NBA? Some people would ask, or talk about your experience kind of playing overseas.
Yeah, it's quick and easy. I was undersized 4 and an underskilled 3. That's pretty much what it was. I'm 6'7", 200, 6'7", 6'8", with basketball shoes on, and about 235, 230. But in the NBA, you got to be 6'11" and 260 pounds, 70 pounds. So I ended up going I entered the draft, wasn't drafted. It was a lockout year. Did 5 years in the NBA Summer League, but it was one of those things. I think I got more value out of being an international basketball player. There's 4 things that Europeans do. They give you a fully furnished apartment. They give you a car for transportation. They pay your agent's fees, which is about 10% of your salary. And then they pay your taxes also. So there are some benefits of living overseas where you're making 250,000, but you're only paying $12,000 in taxes just because you're doing the whole thing correctly. I played in Istanbul, Turkey my first year, which was a culture shock very much. Then I played in Australia with Andrew Gaze and Leonard Copeland, who are still now announcers down in the NBL. Loved playing down there. There's a couple highlights that you'll see. If you just type in Bennett Davison, Melbourne Tigers, you'll see those. Then I played 2 years in Slovenia with Luka Doncic's father, Sasha Doncic. I knew Luka when he was about 4 years old. Just a little hard-headed kid running around the floor after the games. Then I did 2 years in Naples, and that's where I became married and started having daughters. I have 3 daughters, Maya, Chiara, and Talia. And then I went to Bologna, Italy, back over to Croatia, played a couple of years in the EuroLeague in those. Then I went back to Bologna, Milan, Croatia, played on the island of Crete, played in the Greek leagues, and then finished off in Gold Coast, Australia. And then it just became too many injuries, pulled growing, sit out for 2 weeks, come back for 2 months, another pull growing, lower back issues, just the pounding wears on you.
And the season begins, what is it like, about the same as NBA in the fall and then goes through?
They're August 20th. Like they'll send you a contract Sunday, read it Monday, sign it Tuesday, pack up and leave Friday, and you're gone for 10 months. You're there August, September, early September. You're doing a month and a half of training camp. It's too much practice. Europeans, they got 2 practices a day for 9 months straight, and you're just beat up. You're worn out. It's too much.
Tell us about, as for that many years overseas, and how, for other listeners that are maybe looking at overseas, or what it's like for players playing that many years overseas or playing in a sport where you travel so much, about kind of relationships and maintaining that relationship and the challenges with the traveling where you're not able to see your wife or your kids as much. And if you can just share that with the listeners.
Yeah, the wife and the ex-wife and the daughters, they would travel with me. I was pretty much, besides that month and a half of training camp, or a month, and then maybe the last 3 weeks of playoffs before everyone's, let's just get home. I'm so tired of being here. You really get this experience of, you're not a traveler. You're actually living in Naples, Bologna, Milan, Croatia. You're experiencing these things. When you're a basketball player, you're playing a game on Thursday, maybe on a Thursday and a Saturday. So you might be 1 week you're a game home and a game home, but then you're a game away and a game away. So then you got to fly to Russia and you got to leave Monday, Tuesday, play your game Thursday, get back on a plane that morning, fly straight to Greece where you're playing in the EuroLeague game, or you're going back to northern Italy where you're playing the Italian Cup. So there's a lot of just being away from the family 5 or 6 times. The biggest thing I think is, just like being in Hollywood, it's not a conducive area for people to get married. So think of it this way. You just had 4 years in college. You spent 4 years in high school dedicating your life to basketball to get a college scholarship. You get 4 years. Then you're on television. You win a national championship one of those 4 years. You're Division I, II, or III. Then you're going off to, say, play professional. This is probably most likely 99% of the time the best years of you making your money. This is about you. This isn't about the family or whatever else, mom or dad, girlfriend. When you're in the prime of your life, there are going to be people that attach to you, and you love them. And I adored my ex-wife, and we did junior college together. We raised babies. We traveled the world, some of the best times I ever had. But in the years that you make your best money, it is not conducive for a healthy relationship. You're on the road a lot. You're being tempted a lot. You're being thrown into the fire without a fire protective suit. And a lot of people fall weakness to it. And what happens in the normal world, 55% of marriages fail. In Hollywood and sports and NFL, and I would even say it's 70 to 80% of them fail, maybe even higher. It's not conducive for your best years of making finances. When you're done with basketball, you can get married and become a teacher or become a firefighter or start your own business. But in those years, if you're going to invest in a company that has an 80% fail rate, you're making the best money of your life, you're traveling the world, get married after you're done playing basketball. That's just my little 2 cents.
Once you were done playing European ball, share with the listeners why you decided to set up, when you came back to the States, it's called Euro Hoop Life, to help like current players overseas and players looking at playing overseas.
Yeah, so as a player that played over 12 different seasons, but At the same time, I probably played for about 20 different teams, because then you bounce into Dominican Republic for 2 months. Then you go to Venezuela for a month. Then you go to Mexico for 2 weeks. There's the little short-term ones that are teams that are high repetition. Certain countries, there's about 5 different regions. There's Asia, European, African, Oceanic, and Australian, something like that. There's about 5 different regions. FIBA, or FIFA, Federation of International Basketball Association, oversees everything. It sees the Olympics. It oversees the NBA, NCAA, everything. It's ruled. It's an international and governing body, just like FIFA. In doing so, there's no, for international players or teams, there's no, like an NBA, if a player, you ever heard of any NBA player not getting paid on time? Never. If the payday's on Sunday, they get paid on a Friday. They're in a bit different pay scale. So over 5 different teams, I've had about $120,000 not paid to me. Scafati, Italy, owes me about $35,000. Galatasaray still owes me about 60, probably 50 to 60,000. They're in Istanbul, Turkey. You've got a couple of the teams that just like, you know what, we're not going to pay you. But if they don't pay them, and then you stop saying I'm not going to practice, all they say is you're a disgruntled employee, and they only have to pay 10% of what your monthly salary is to be in good standing, saying we'll pay you guys later. So these teams, say Scafati, Italy, down in Naples, Italy, they will say that's why all these European teams have all these logos, because one team has 500,000, 200,000, 100,000, 10,000. And if your team doesn't finish in first, second, or third, these sponsors basically say, we're going to wipe our hands of ourselves. You didn't say where you were going to finish. But at the beginning of the season, knowing that you're going to have to spend, say, $5 million for travel, hotel, salaries, shoes, ankle tape, whatever it might be, gym time, FIBA doesn't make them set up an account saying, hey, this is going to cost $5 million. You need to have $5 million before the season starts so that you know that you're in the good. They don't do that. So really what I wanted to do was pretty much do surveys, interviews, podcasts like we're doing right here, short little 8-minute things. And you can find it on Euro Hoop Life, one word, on YouTube. All I did was during Corona, and I've tried setting up a website, how to make a website functional, how are people going to go back to it, use it. That's just a hard niche to be able to find. While doing that, you can provide insurance and all those types of things. But really what it came down to was just finding out what those teams are. So I really asked questions about, do they pick you up from the airport? What's the city like? Are you in Mongolia? Are you in Dallas? Are you in Tucson? Are you up in Bismarck? Is that North Dakota?
Yeah, North Dakota.
And are we in negative 30 degrees? Are we in Saudi Arabia where it's 116 every single day? Are you in Syria, a war-torn area? Or in Israel? Are you waiting for bombs to come over from the east? And so it's one of those things where I'm just interviewing. I have about 90 to 100 interviews of what was it like? Do they pay you on time? Is it someplace that you felt safe? Would you recommend it to someone? Would you bring your wife and kids over there? And tell me a crazy story. So that's all it is, about 8 to 12-minute videos. I've got a couple of them shortened to just the best highlights. And you'll hear stories about people coming into their apartment and they have to eat horse leg. There's basically a full horse leg sitting there. I was in Istanbul, Turkey, and car bombs were going off. I went and played for a team that was finishing the 8th place. We ended up getting to the final 2 teams, and we stopped playing because they hadn't paid us for 4 months. We basically did a jump ball, said, hey, Roger, don't jump for the ball. We basically haven't been paid for 4 months. We're not playing today. So we jumped the ball. We got it over half court. We all huddled around. We just stood there. And the team's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? He's like, you ain't paid us in 4 months, assholes. So we're done playing. And so we're taking half court shots and we're just dicking around. We lost by 50 points, but we didn't care. You hadn't paid us in 4 months. So that's what Euro Hoop Life is. Just what's it like being an international basketball player overseas and hearing about players and their experience of teams. So I just do interviews and podcasts just like we're doing here.
And then also players looking at playing overseas can reach out to you too, or not only watch these YouTubes, but also have a chance to reach out to you and talk to you about this.
Yeah, that's at EuroHoopLife@gmail.com. Just EuroHooplife, Euro Hoop Life. You're in Europe. It's a hoop life, and that's all it is. So
I appreciate you sharing that. I think there's going to be some listeners that are really going to be fascinated by that because they hear a lot of players playing overseas, but they really don't know what the lifestyle is like and the experiences. And are you going to get paid or not? And what's it like in this city? And
months or 10 months, go over there to Mongolia where it's negative 30 degrees and they don't pay you. They pay you the first month when you get there. and then they don't pay you for 2 months. Then you're like, what the hell is going on here? You don't want to leave because you know you're never going to get your money, but you just wasted 2 months of your stuff. Then they pay you, then you stay. Then the whole thing is just, it's a miserable mind F, I guess you could say.
Wow. Share with the listeners, going back to you graduating from or finishing at Arizona and then going on to play European ball. Why it might be difficult for some athletes to finish their degree immediately after playing college ball? Because you hear players going back years later to finish their degree.
Yeah, so when I did that first freshman year and sophomore year, Lute Olson came in Oregon, and all the teams came into our living room, and they said, we have a Wildcats Forever program. So knowing that if you go to a Duke or North Carolina, Arizona, UCLA, you're going to have a good chance of going to the Chicago Combine, being drafted, or going over to Europe. When that happens, once this March Madness happens, school ends usually in May. So you've got March, that's going to go for the next 5 weeks. So you're going to go to the middle of April. Then you got April and May, and then we win the championship. That's the last thing you're doing is going to class. So I had to withdraw from 8 upper division courses, and I had to be there because I had to do our final senior year projects and junior year projects. So the junior year we win the championship, we're gone. I think we're gone from Tuesday to Sunday for 5-6 straight weeks. We come back, and it's just total distraction. Everyone's distracted after the championship. Then you come back, finish the semester. I had to withdraw from 4 classes. And then I had to do another one for the senior year. But then you're going off to Phoenix, and you're going to Utah, and you're going to Boston for these combines. Chicago, they always know that there's players that are going to go over to Europe. And so I ended up just finishing my last 8 upper division courses, taking 2 in the first part of the semester online at University of Arizona. And I had a $25,000 bill in my bursar's account. And Jennifer Muse is there someone that can take care of this? Yeah. And 2 days later, there was like $90 left, and I only had to pay for a book. For a college student, you have all the tools. You have more tools than any other average student, but you have so much pulling you in another direction. You have the fans, you have the stadium, you have the food prep, you have the practice prep. So we have our classes from 7 o'clock till 12 or 1 o'clock, Monday through Friday. But then we've also got to go home and get food prep. Then we got to go play a week. Then we got to get on a bus, or then we got to get on a train and flight to Arizona or to Washington. Then we got to come back, and we get 1 half day because we played Saturday night, come back Sunday. You got a half a day to just, oh my God, I'm exhausted. You go right back to class on Monday at 8 o'clock in the morning and so you're really getting prepared for that life. So for me, I was just glad that I had the opportunity to be able to finish that degree, get right into teaching, and been teaching social studies, Texas history, middle school, high school is the age group. And now I'm doing EMT health for a school called Pioneer Technology Arts Academy in Mesquite. Love it. Kids are the best kids I've ever had. I went off to my mom's 80th birthday last week in Oahu, and one of the subs came in. He's like, your kids were the best kids I've ever seen. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, they came in, they got their work, you turn the lights off, you put something on YouTube, and they get their work done. I was like, good. I came in, I was like, people are bragging about you guys. Let's go outside. It's Friday. Let's go outside and get some shots. You're like, for real? Yeah, you guys earned it. Let's go. So little things like that. I try to treat them like young adults because they are young adults, but you never know what you're going to get at school. So I'm looking at other situations now. It's, $10,000 more, $15,000 more. It's like, but do I want to teach in the DISD where I go, what are you doing? Keep your hands off of her. Why are you sitting on the desk? Leave that picture alone. Stop swearing in classrooms. There's a lot of that other stuff that goes on at other schools. You're just like, man, I wish I was back at the school that paid me less because it's just less chaos. It's like that pay scale versus happiness ratio. That was one of the reasons it was just hard for me, is because you're just drawn in so many different directions in traveling.
And then along with that, you started this, share with the listener about bird basketball. And I know you're in Dallas, Texas, so just share with us. And I know you have 3 daughters too, you mentioned.
Yeah, so I have 3 daughters. They're very athletic. Me and the ex-wife have the best definition is parental alienation. When a mother gets that power and she basically alienates you any way that she possibly can. So that's the simplest way to describe the clinical definition of it. But they are living their best lives. Maya's at Georgetown playing soccer and getting her business degree. Kiara, my middle daughter, she is finishing up her sophomore year at Loyola of Chicago. And Ali is finishing up at Highland Park playing high school volleyball and 6'1" and blocking and hitting hard. One day I'll see her out on the volleyball courts because that's what I do now. It's easier on the body, setting those volleyballs, that type of stuff. Yeah, so for me, I've always, since I moved out here, I had a youth basketball after school program in a little city called Farmers Branch. Socioeconomically, probably not the best place to start, but it was a great facility. I drove across town. The only thing is, imagine leaving school at 3:45, having to drive 30 to 45 minutes through the busiest part of the day. I just ended up shifting it around and trying to find a location, just doing club teams and after school youth basketball. And my school is a consistent thing to be able to pay for the bills. And then the entrepreneur stuff is for, instead of sitting around the house and being done at 4 o'clock, let's finish the day at 7, 8 o'clock and get the entrepreneurial side of me, keep it busy.
And do you have some of that going on tonight with the hoops or?
This is spring break right now. It's birdbasketball.com. You can find it on Instagram, which is bird_basketball at Instagram, or was it / bird_basketball Instagram. And it's just videos and inspiration and kids training and little skills, what to do, what not to do, following through this or rolling your hand out. You're supposed to follow through, that type of stuff. So I'm enjoying it. The good kids are good. I'm a big kid myself. You ask any of my old teammates, they're like, man, my immaturity keeps me young. So for me, I like giving that back to our kids. I actually coached the middle school team at Pioneer, and last year they went 0 wins and 8 losses. And this year I was coaching, we went 7 wins and 1 loss. And the only reason we got the loss is because we didn't have our point guard. It was the kids and the parents are all very receptive, and they love it a lot.
All right. Hey, we all have the little kid in us.
Right.
Hey, that needs to come out at times, right? All right. Share with us, kind of wrapping this up, about some influential people that I know you mentioned a few about people in your past or present time that have made really impact on you.
I think I always tell people, whether it's about relationship advice or giving myself advice or why this relationship didn't work, is think like the Olympic rings. You have all these different rings, and certain people come into your life. You have certain people like your parents, you're always going to be overlapped unless they pass away early. Or me and the ex-wife were overlapped our rings for 10, 15 years, and now they're no longer connected. Long-term girlfriends and things like that. You overlap a little bit, so you let certain people in, they let you in, and you let them in, and things work. Just for relationships, I wish I had a better relationship with my daughters. Like I said, parental alienation and finances and lawyers can keep those things away. But that's why I'm staying in Dallas, is that hope for being here and seeing that just with relationships is, don't let money or a man's bank account define who they are as a person inside. I know it makes things a lot easier. I know it's a thing where if someone's a millionaire and someone's a thousandaire, that this person is sometimes seen as a certain status. But in a world where women are lawyers and doctors and men are in a way being like, name an advertisement you ever seen where a man has been built up, or a husband. It's usually, my husband's so dumb he couldn't go to the grocery store and get the groceries by himself. It's a good thing I have a mom inside. I'm about building up the other men around myself. And there's nothing worse. I see a lot of this weekend with St. Patty's Day and a lot of college kids, and they're like, oh, you're such an idiot. And all these males are sitting there throwing insults. I feel always that, whether it's my good friends and saying, is building them up, especially when you're around other females. Don't try to insult your friends in front of a female. It's trying to make yourself look better. Build them up. Man, you should see what Hamza does. He has some of the most amazing websites. Hey, Michael, dude, you need to talk to him about insurance. Talk to this guy about youth basketball. I always love setting other people up and trying to make other people look good or represent. And I think that's what I want my daughters to see, is say, hey, you know what? All those things that mom said aren't accurate. They don't match up. These years of her saying he's the worst person alive, but now I'm seeing this, they don't match up. And that's really what my thing is, getting that relationship back with my daughters, because I was an amazing father. I am a good father. I love waking up early, changing those diapers. I love getting them to school, daycare centers, showing them off, taking them home to family. I grew up in a large family. I feel that the ex-wife has a very small, isolated, excluded family. So I think there's just a big chunk that my daughters haven't seen because they haven't been allowed to see. And I think with relationships, we all have an idea of how we want life to go, but it doesn't always turn out that way. But all you can do is keep progressing and progressing forward. So those are my little words of advice for relationships and friends and family.
Bennett, I want to thank you so much for sharing. And where can listeners, I know you shared a little bit about this, can follow you and follow your story?
The best way to reach me is just through Instagram at bird_basketball. You can go to Euro Hoop Life on Instagram also. And then for the international basketball players, just reach me at eurohooplife@gmail.com. It's the easiest way to reach out. Everyone's got LinkedIn. Just type in Bennett Davison on Instagram. You can reach me there. It's the easiest way to do things.
All right, that's a wrap with Bennett Davison, and I want to thank you for being part of Men Pursuing More podcast.
Roger, you're awesome. Thank you for reaching out.
Hey, thanks for listening to Men Pursuing More podcast. Don't forget to follow us at moppincoaching.com.